So let's start with 4.5, limits of infinity. And you see on the board all the rules, but you have to know how to use the rules. Before we start with notes, I'm going to give you all these notes with example. Remember, if we have half of x, x over x plus 3, x minus 1. These are what?
Asymptotes.
Asymptotes, and there's, in this case, non-removable discontinuity. And the same thing, if we have an example, x minus 1 over x plus 3, x minus 1. This point, be careful, only this one is what? Is removable discontinuity. And this one is what? Asymptote, okay? So just to remember. Now here's the first rule. When we have x going to infinity and x going to negative infinity. Remember when we took the limit, always we trying to find the limit to a certain number, like 5, 6, 7, 1, 0. But now we're taking the limit where? To infinity and negative infinity. So here is the first rule. Always the limit for 1 over x for infinity and negative infinity equal what? 0. So this is a rule, not just the one. If you have 4 over x, limit to infinity, 4 over x, the result is going to be 0. If you have the limit x going to negative infinity, 1,000,000 over x, the result is going to be 0. So this is look like a rule. We're going to use it. And here's the proof for that. Check when x going to 1,000, 2,000, and keep going up, the limit going where? Toward the 0. And the same thing if from -1, -10, -1,000, that's mean going to the negative infinity. The result going to the 0. So this is look like a rules. If f of x gets really close to a certain number, as x going to infinity and negative infinity, the limits exist. That means there is a limit, but it's going to be infinity or negative infinity. Here's another rule, which is the same thing here, but now we have exponents here. So don't confuse yourself, it's going to be the same result. Why? Because one of the limits rule, if you have exponents here, that means it's going to be the exponents for the whole limit. And then the limit for 1 over x is going to be 0. That means 0 to the n, which is equal for the positive infinity, and the same thing for the negative infinity. The exponent is going to be for the whole limit. And then the limit for 1 over x when x approaches the negative infinity is going to be 0. 0, n is going to be 0. So here is the important rules. Any number divided by x, the limit for this number, if it's infinity or negative infinity, is going to be 0. The first part, let's jump to the next part. The limit, check here, what it says. The limit of polynomials. Polynomials, but our x going where? To infinity and negative infinity. So look to the graph. The blue graph, you remember the graph of x cubed? It would be like this. This is the graph of x cubed. That's why I just did it in blue. Now let's check. The limit when x cubed goes to the infinity. The limit goes where? This positive infinity. Now the limit when x cubed going to the negative infinity. The limit goes where? To the negative infinity. You got it? So now let's talk about x squared. The limit, here's x squared. It's parabola up. The limit for x squared when going to the positive infinity is going to go where? Up. So the limit for x squared, sorry, is going to be what? Positive infinity. What about x squared going to the negative infinity? X going to the negative infinity, the limit also going to the positive infinity. You see the difference? What about if it's negative x squared? What about if we have negative x squared? Both is going to be goes down. Okay? So when it's negative x squared, our graph is going to be like this. Because it's reflect over x-axis. So the limit when x going to the positive infinity going down, the limit when going to negative infinity also going down, which is negative infinity. You got it? So here is also important rules. We're going to use it. The limit for polynomial always follow the what? The behavior of the highest exponents. So when you have polynomial, you're just going to focus on the highest exponents. For example, here's the polynomial. They're telling you find the limit where? Negative infinity. That means I'm going to follow only here's the highest exponents. So it's the same thing, the limit where to the negative 3x cubed. Now let's look. The graph of x cubed here. This side is up, this side is down. What about negative x cubed? Going to be reflected over x-axis because I have negative here. This negative is going to be reflected the graph. Yes, this one's going to be a vertical stretch. We're not going to care about the stretch because we need to find the limit. Now, the graph with the negative, here's the positive, negative is going to be reflect. This side is going down, this side is going to be up. So now, when the limit goes to the negative infinity, the graph goes where? Positive infinity. So our result is going to be positive infinity. You got it? What about the positive side? It's going to be negative infinity. Okay? So don't confuse yourself. It's going to pause the record. Now, here's the important thing. We need to find the limit when x going to infinity for everything here. So always write down this notes. When you find a rational like this one, think about dividing the whole thing by the highest exponents on the bottom part. So what's the highest exponents here? Is x. So I'm going to divide the whole thing by x, because always the problem is going to be on the denominator here. So that means this one is going to be the limit when x approaches to the infinity, 5x divided by x minus 2 divided by x. And this one is going to be 3x divided by x plus 9 divided by x. Cancel the x's, which means it will be the same thing, the limit x approaches infinity. The left here is just 5 minus 2 over x divided by 3 plus 9 over x. And remember, we can distribute the limit for 5, limit for this one, limit here, limit here. Now, limit for the constant, it's constant. So that means here's 5 minus. The limit for 2 over x is what? 0, the same thing, 1 over x. So that means the limit here is going to be 0 over. The limit for constant 3, the limit for 9 over x is going to be 0. So then the result is going to be 5 over 3. That's it. That means the limit for the whole thing is goes where? To 5 over 3. So always you're going to divide by the highest exponent where? But what I'm going to do here, I have 5 minus 2 over x squared. Can I say this is equal the limit when x approaches to the infinity to the 5 minus the limit when x approaches to the infinity to the 2 over x squared? Can I do that? Yes or no? Now, what's the limit for constant? Just 5 minus. What's the limit for 2 over x squared?
0.
5 minus 0, which is equal 5. That's it. Even if you divide this one by the highest exponent, 2 is going to be divided by x squared divided by x squared is going to be the same thing. So you're not going to do any change. Let's check these two examples. I'm going to solve the first one. We do the same thing, divide everything by
X squared.
x squared, the highest exponent here. So this one is going to be the limit when x approach to the infinity. 2x over x squared plus 5 over x squared and over 3x squared divided by x squared plus 1 over x squared. Let's simplify it. Be equal the limit when x approach to the infinity. This one is going to be 2 over x. Here, 5 over x squared over 3 plus 1 over x squared. Now, you can tell me the limit goes where? How much here? The limit for 2 over x?
0.
0. How much is the limit for 5 over x squared?
0.
So 0 divided by any number. 0. Here is 0 plus 0. This is constant 3 plus 0. So the result is going to be 0. It's okay so far. What about the other one? Can we do the same thing? Divide both by, do you have a question? Divide both by x, and the highest exponents on the denominator only.
Oh,
Yes, be careful. Not about the highest exponents for everything. That means we're gonna get zeros a lot. Because the problem here, so is going to be the limit. X approach to negative infinity. 7x cubed divided by x minus 2x squared divided by x plus 1 over x and over 9 over x minus 2x over x. Now let's check what we're gonna get. Here is going to be given the limit. X approach to negative infinity. Going to be 7x squared minus 2 plus 1 over x divided by.
Is it 2x?
No, oh, yeah, 2x. Here is going to be 9 over x minus 2. Now tell me. On the bottom part, this is 0, right? So what's the left here?
-2.
Negative 2. So I'm just gonna put negative 2 here. Because this is 0, this is negative 2, limit for a constant, negative 2. Now let's check on the top. On the top, is that polynomial? On the top, it's polynomial. So I'm gonna follow the highest exponent. So the last note here on the second board. The highest exponent. Where is the highest exponent? Is 7x squared. 7x squared, I already know it's a positive. The limit, if it's negative infinity or positive infinity, going where? Going up. So that means the limit for everything here is what? Positive infinity. Now, positive infinity divided by negative number. I'm not gonna care about the number because it's infinity. Divided by 2, by 5, it's still infinity. But the main thing is sign. Positive divided by negative. So the result is going to be negative infinity. Okay? Let's see the first example. This example on the other side. Now tell me. The first one, is that polynomial? Oh, they're telling you here's f of x. And now h of x equal what? So h of x equal f of x, which is 8 x squared plus 2x plus 7 over what? Oh, but be careful, but they're telling you here. They're telling you. H of x equals the limit. X goes where? To infinity. You see, because it's a little confusing. H of x is f of x over x. F of x, here's the polynomial. And they're telling you find the limit goes where? To infinity. Now, what I'm gonna do here? Divide both by the highest exponent on. So this one is going to be the limit. When x approaches to infinity, 8x squared divided by x plus 2x divided by x plus 7 divided by plus x divided by x. This is cancelled. This is cancelled. So it's going to be, it's the limit when x approaches to infinity. What's the left here? 8x plus 2 plus 7 over x divided by 1, which is, we don't have to write down the 1. So that's what they left. Now tell me, this is 0. Constant is still constant. What about 8x? The limit goes where? When, so the x, yes. For the x function, this side like this, and this side like this. Now, we go into the positive infinity, because where the limit?
Infinity.
Positive infinity. So here's the important thing. This is goes to positive infinity. This is 0, positive infinity. If you add 2, it's still positive infinity. So that means the limit goes where? To infinity. You got it? So almost the whole thing is just analyzing. Just analyze what you're gonna do. You do the same thing with this one and cute. You will do the same thing. Second one, now they're telling you over what? X squared. So it's going to be the same thing. H of an x equal the limit when x goes to the infinity. Our polynomial is 8 x squared plus 2x plus 7 divided by x squared. That's mean we're going to divide everything by x squared. So this one is going to be 8. I'm just going to divide it right away. This one is going to be 2 over x, yes or no?
Yes.
And this one is going to be 7 over x squared. Now you can tell this is 0, this is 0. For constant is going to be constant. What about here? Going to be 1. So what's the result? Because we're dividing by x squared. So it's going to be 8. That's the only thing left. You can do the same thing with the next one. Which one you want to solve? I'm gonna solve it really. Which one you gonna choose? Don't think a lot. Which one you gonna choose?
A.
Let's do A. A is the easiest one.
It is.
Let's go to C. Because this one is already divided by x cubed. So it's going to be what? 1 plus 0, 1 minus 4. So the result is going to be what?
1 minus 0.
1 over 1. Yes, 1 plus 0, 1 minus 4.
Is it 4 or 0?
0, sorry. So it could be 1 over. Now, let's work on this one.
Nothing.
Same thing. The limit is correct. Limit when x approaches to infinity, x cubed plus 9 over x squared minus 4. So again, divide by x squared. X squared over x cubed over x squared plus 9 over x squared. Here is x squared over x squared 4 over x squared. Now tell me, on the top, the left is
X.
x plus 9 over x squared. There is 1 minus 4 over x squared. So what's the limit for the x? And goes where? The positive side. What's the limit for x?
Infinity.
So here is infinity. Plus, this one is going to be 0. Here is 1 minus 0. So the limit is going to be infinity. That is okay. Go to the next one. What about this one? Which one you want to solve? That's a cool one. What about this one? That's the important part because it's a little bit confusing because this is what?
1
Yeah, which is a fraction. The exponent is a fraction, but you're gonna do that exactly the same thing. So you're gonna say, well, the first one is the limit of x going to the infinity, because you're gonna divide everything by x squared. So it's going to be 3 x to the power 3 over 2 divided by x squared. Which is on the top. On the bottom is going to be 7x squared divided by x squared plus 6 divided by x squared. So you can tell this is 0. This is what? 7. So I have 7 minus 0. 7 plus 0. But here, what I'm going to do if we have 3 over 2 over x squared, what I'm going to do? We divide two exponents. What are you going to do to the exponents? Yes, so it's going to be this one minus this one. So I need to combine everything here. So I can tell the limit goes where. Because that's the important part. So which is the same thing, you're going to say x 3 over 2 divided by x squared is x 3 over 2 minus 2. That means it's x, this one times 2 over 1 times 2, which is 3 over 2 minus
4 over 2.
4 over 2, which is going to be x equal. Okay, so it's negative 1 over 2. Now it's negative 1 over 2 here. That means it's going to be the limit x approach to infinity. 1 over 2, can I write down is 1 over square root of x? That's mean 1 over square root of x over what? Over the left here is 7 plus 0. I have to write down because I didn't took the limit now. So it's going to be 7 plus 6 over x squared. Now what's the next thing?
In the top should be 0.
So before that, I'm going to write down this. I'm going to flip this one. Oh, how much the limit here? Tell me. square root of x, if x going to the infinity, is square root of x going where? Going where?
Oh,
It's still going to the positive, because it's a positive side. So it's gonna go to infinity. So if you say, okay, 1 over the square root of x is going to be infinity, that's mean 1 over infinity. Okay, now what about here? This is 7. The limit for this one is going to be 0. So now, let's take the limits. The limit for this part is going to be 1 over infinity. The limit here, 7 plus 0. So if you flip it, is 1 over infinity times what?
1/7.
1 over 7. That's mean 1 over infinity, which is equal what? Let's do the next one, B. Now, B, it's easy. Because you're gonna divide by 3 over 2. The left from here just 3. And this one is going to be 7. So 3 over 7. You already solved it. What about the next one? This is x to the power half. So you're gonna divide everything by x to 1 half. So the limit when x approach to the infinity, and you're gonna say, okay, it's a 3 x 3 over 2, you're gonna divide by x to the power half, and everything over 7 x to the power half divide by 7 x to the power half divide by x to the power half plus 6 over x to the power half. Going to be the limit x approach to infinity. How much is left here? 3x. 3 minus 1. 2. Because we're gonna minus the exponents. 3 over 2 minus 1 over 2. The same denominator, so it's gonna be 3 minus 3 over 2 minus 1 over 2. So it's going to be what? 1, not 2. Was it 3 minus? It's going to be 2 divided by 2 is going to be 1. So 3x, which is the same result. Over. And so these 7 plus. That's what?
0.
Now, 7 plus 0 is still a number. That's the main thing. It's not a 0. If it's a 0, it's going to be undefined. But now we have a number here. 3x. X goes where? So infinity divided by 7. It's still infinity. So you're just going to say it goes to the infinity. Negative infinity. Yeah, that's the main thing with the number on the bottom. If it's negative and you get positive, so it's going to be negative infinity. So the result is going to be 7, because we did exactly the same one. So we're just going to type 7. What about this one? Be careful, it goes where? And be careful on the test. It goes to infinity or negative infinity, okay? So now, what I'm gonna do here,
That's 0. Or
you can
Separate
distribute,
limits.
yes, separate the limit, don't confuse yourself. So this one you're gonna say equal what? Equal the limit when x goes to the negative infinity 4 over x. And you can tell this one goes where? Minus the limit when x goes to the negative infinity, which number? X over 9. So the first part goes where? A number divided by goes where?
0.
Okay, so this one goes to 0. What about here? Don't worry about the bottom part, because if you divide both, you don't have exponents here, so we're not gonna divide anything. The limit for x goes where?
It's infinity.
To infinity, okay, so here is 0. Don't forget the minus. The whole thing here goes where?
It's infinity.
So what's the result?
Negative infinity.
Negative infinity. Got it? Is that right? What do you think?
Well, X always goes to infinity.
No?
Unless it's positive, it goes to infinity.
Wait,
Oh,
is that right?
No,
Why?
you forgot to put negative sign in front of it.
Because the x going where?
negative.
The negative infinity. That means this part, here's negative sign,
So then it's.
so it's gonna be positive there. Okay, because when we graph it, here's the graph of x, right? We need to go which side? Here is negative infinity, that's mean when x going to negative infinity, the limit goes where? Negative infinity.
Look, the graph is flipped, so it's actually positive.
Which graph is flipped?
About his arrow?
Talking about the negative? Oh yeah, because it's look like it flipped, that's why it's gonna be positive infinity. Yeah, you're right. You can say the same thing. If you don't worry about this one, the negative sign. He said that the graph of x, because there is negative sign, is a flip. Because there is negative here, which is mean negative x, so the graph like this. So the graph like this, that's mean the limit for when x goes to negative, it goes where? To positive infinity. But if you want to keep the negative sign here, the limit when x goes to negative infinity only for this part is goes where? To negative infinity. That's mean negative is going to be positive infinity. Okay? I'm telling you, it's more thinking more than just doing stuff. You got it? You're overthinking. You can divide everything by
X.
by x, the highest exponent here. So here is going to be 5 x over x plus 8 over x and 9x over x minus 2 over x. Cancel here, cancel here. This goes where? This part goes where?
Zero.
This part goes where?
Oh, okay.
5 over, that's it. Number 9. I have to leave some cake for you.
Oh, man. I'm not hungry.
You have to, you can save it. I know you're gonna eat the cake now. So what about this one? You're gonna divide everything by what? It's x because, okay, what's the highest exponents here? If you say x squared, but don't forget there is a root, which is mean x. So divide everything by x. That's going to be equal the limit when x approach to negative infinity, and be careful if it's positive or negative infinity. Then divide everything by x. Here is the x, divide by x. Here is going to be square root of x squared minus x divided by. Now, what are you gonna do in this case? These. Approach to negative infinity. And what's the next step? On the top, it's 1. What about the bottom? Think about that a little bit.
You flip it and then multiply.
Oh, don't overthink it. Don't flip anything because you have 1 on the top. We need to keep it 1. Right? Because these cancel. So I already have 1 here. On the bottom, what I'm gonna do? How are you gonna simplify it?
Multiply.
Don't multiply.
X to the 1/2. Or the x squared minus x to the 1/2.
X squared minus X.
In parentheses, and then subtract would be like x to the negative.
Okay, you can do that. Let's try. It's good to try. So maybe it's gonna work because I have another way to solve it. Well,
Easier or
not easier.
Well, why don't you solve it your way and have her solve it her way? And see if y'all get the same answer.
No, I'm trying to solve it in her way because it's the same thing. Almost.
Almost.
X approach to negative.
We didn't say you were wrong, so there's a plus.
No, because I
we
didn't
didn't
say it's
say
wrong.
either last time.
So,
What is?
Went along with it.
so let's see. What you said? I almost forgot. 1/, you said I'm gonna say X squared
X.
to the power divided by X. Okay, that's what she said. Is that anything wrong? No. Now what are you gonna do?
We should explain them.
It was to subtract it, but now that I'm looking at it. It's
Okay, you said so it's gonna be half minus,
1.
okay,
so
which
negative
means
1/2.
negative 1/2. That means going to be 1/. We still have to put the limit. I hate to write down limits. It'll give me 1/, which is
X squared minus x.
1/. Cause it's going to be negative. That means x squared minus x to the negative exponent. Yes or no?
Oh, okay.
So she said half minus 1. Can you do that?
Yes. No?
Why? If you said yes, I'm gonna tell you why. If you said no, I'm gonna tell you why.
Well, now that I'm
So best
looking at
thing
it,
is to just not answer.
Oh, you have, like, if you say yes or no, that's the cool thing with the math. They always say why. Have to. Can you say half minus 1?
Yeah.
Why?
if you substitute in what's in parentheses for a variable, you can do it.
You can do it, but you can do it only in one case.
If it's the same variable.
It's the same base. You can say, here's with this one. It's 1 minus 1. 0, x to the power 0 equal 1, because it's the same base when you have, let's do it here. The same base. You can say it's a n minus n. It's one of the exponents rule. Is that the same base? No, so we can do that.
Okay.
Mission failed. So what are we gonna do now?
Not piece of cake.
Let's go, let's try. I'm telling you, I don't know. Come on. Now what we're gonna do? Till I,
We
It
solve
is
it your
everything.
way,
which is,
whatever way you want it to.
here's the thing. On the top is 1. Now x, if I wanna put the x under the root, what I'm gonna do? So here's the top part, right? Yes or no? X squared minus x. X, it's the same thing. The square root of x squared. See, that's the cool part. Now, can I put these with the same root? Because the same root, so is that the same thing? Limit. X goes to the infinity or negative infinity. 1/. Is that the same thing? X squared over minus x over x squared. Everything under the root. Now, what's the next step? Limit. X goes to the negative infinity. is that the same thing? Under the root, x squared over x squared minus x over x squared. You see how it's cool? Yes or no? So how much here? 1 minus 1 over x. So everything here is going to be the limit. X negative infinity. Here. One over square root of 1 minus 1 over x. Now this is what? 0. The square root of 1, 1. So that means it's the limit when x going to negative infinity, 1 over square root of 1, which is 1 over 1, which is, I don't know. You see? Is that cooler? Can we do the same thing here? For example, 10
If it's negative infinity,
will be negative 1. But when you take in the limit here, you have the limit for the constant. The limit when x going to the negative infinity to the constant 1. It goes with which side? X approach to the negative infinity. So the constant goes where? It's negative 1. Let's example the same thing there. Now, what about this example? How are we gonna solve this one? Okay, so that's the first step you're going to do. Divide everything by x. But because here the problem, we're gonna fix it. How are we gonna get negative? Because I need to get negative with the solution. So, because we did the same thing, we divided by x. But here's the thing. And you will see why we get negative x. Negative number. So you're going to say divide everything by x, which is okay, this is the right step, but let's see. Divide everything by, this goes to infinity. Let's see, this one goes to infinity, yes. We're gonna say square root of x squared plus 2 divided by x over 3x minus 6 divided by x. Now let's check on the side, and that's what we forgot on the previous example. Can I say x equal the square root of x squared? Can I say that?
That's what you said on that one.
Yeah, but that's what we did the mistakes. On the
That was
previous
wrong.
one. Okay, everything is right, but how we get negative 1? I'm gonna show you.
plus or minus,
Here's the thing. Can I say x equal the square root of x? What's the square root of x?
plus or minus x.
Plus minus x. So that's the wrong thing. It's a plus or minus. We're gonna go back and fix the previous one. Not just with the sign. Now, so this one, they are not equal. Now tell me, what's the equal thing for x squared? You can say that because it's gonna be 2 values, which is equal what? You're right, plus or minus x. There is another way to write down plus or minus x. Because that's mean I cannot plug in here positive x and I cannot plug in negative x because I have square. So I'm not gonna care about the root, but which value give you 2 values also as a positive and negative.
Absolute.
Absolute value of x give you two values, give you positive or negative, not one. Positive and negative x, and the same thing here, give you positive and negative x. So these two values are equal. So in this case, I'm not gonna divide by x, I'm gonna divide by what? Absolute value of x, and then on the top, I can convert the absolute value of x to square root of x squared. So here, I can say, okay, this one is equal, the limit, I'm gonna divide by absolute value of x, absolute value of x. Let's see on the top. It's x squared plus 2. Can I change the absolute value of x to square root of x? But they are equal. I can do that. On the bottom, you can keep it just the absolute value of x. That's mean here is going to be 3x over. Yes or no? Don't forget it's x going to infinity. Now let's check on the top. Is that the same thing? The limit x approach to infinity, square root of over x squared, and everything here. Yes or no? No, can I say it's the limit of x going to the infinity? This is square root of x squared over x squared plus 2 over x squared. And everything here is a 3x over. Yes or no? I didn't record anything from what we did.
It's okay, you didn't record the mess up.
You have to watch the other. When you divide by the absolute value of x. Here's, you see, divide by the absolute value of x. X goes where? Negative. So I'm gonna put negative 1, because it's gonna be negative x. X divided by negative x is going to be. So that's the cool thing, you see? And now bring back the x squared, keep going the same thing, but it's going to be negative 1, and negative 1, and in this case, negative 1 here, and going to be negative 1. You got it? So that's the mistake. At the top.